What's going on YouTube? RDAP Dan here, Federal Prison Time Consulting. Happy Tuesday to everybody. Hope you guys are all having a great day. Just doing a little check-in here, so everybody's doing, and then we're going to kind of get to what we got going on today, guys. What's going on YouTube? RDAP Dan here, Federal Prison Time Consulting. Happy Tuesday to everybody. Hope you guys are all having a great day. Don't forget, make sure if you haven't done so, subscribe to our channel. It's real easy. All you got to do is, and we actually have our screen shared over here for those of you that are not sure how to do that. So this is a screen that many of you are seeing. You've got your subscribe button. You'll see it up here. If you want to leave a message, you can chat right in here live. If you want to send a donation to help those that are kind of unfortunate going without in prison, there's a little money symbol down here on the bottom of your screen. You'll see it. You can click on that to leave a donation, but make sure you subscribe, like the video. Also text the word YouTube to 76626, just like you see on the screen. That will put you on our live notifications so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Today we're going to be talking about RDAP and some of the reasons people actually don't qualify for time off, and even after their gun charges were dropped by the government. So they weren't actually charged with a gun charge. The gun charges have been dropped, but why do they still not qualify for RDAP? And the reason why we're doing this video today is I've actually been getting, it's something we've always gotten a lot of questions about, and I think I've meant to do videos about it in the past and just never did. So we're going to do one about it today. I received it was a consultation client yesterday who was calling in regards to their daughter, wanted to know why her daughter was told by the RDAP coordinator that she was not going to qualify for RDAP, even though her gun charge had been removed from the crimes that she was actually charged with. So her gun charge was dropped. Why did she not qualify for RDAP? That's what we're going to talk about. Also, a couple of other cool little things here. If you haven't been over to our website yet, you probably want to take a look over to federalprisontime.com. Real simple, head on over federalprisontime.com, just like you see up in the menu bar right there. Cool thing here is if you are curious about RDAP, you're going to see at the very top, we have your RDAP FAQs, frequently asked questions, and you can come in here. We've got some of the most commonly asked questions regarding RDAP, things like what is the residential drug addiction program? And all you need to do is if you click on the question, you'll get a little drop down that's going to give you a brief description to answer the question. Can RDAP program benefit state prisoners as well? Am I automatically in if the judge recommends RDAP? How does a participant successfully graduate from RDAP program? What is the wait list like for RDAP? Who is ineligible for RDAP? When can you start the RDAP program once admitted? Do you have to sell or use drugs to get into the program? How can an inmate apply for RDAP? It goes on and on. I've tried to list almost all of the common questions I can think of that should give you quite a bit of information based on your concerns about RDAP. And the earlier you're getting started in this whole situation, the more likely you're going to be a step above and increase your opportunity of entering into the program if that is something you're interested in. Another cool thing I want to let you guys know about, I just did it was a few weeks ago, I did an interview on a podcast. It's called Because I Want to Know, with an amazing host. Her name is Leslie Fear. I had a blast. There is a description in the link of this video. I'll also drop this link right here. If you guys want to go listen to my interview with Leslie Fear on Because I Want to Know, I just dropped a link in the live chat. You can also get the link right off of in the show notes of this video. I got to talk real openly kind of about what I do, why I do this, how I got into this. She asked some really interesting questions. We're probably going to do a second interview with her in a couple of months where it's going to be a little bit more about Shelly's story as well. So with that said, let's kind of jump into this video and the topic that we're talking about today. Also, Tom Root's going to be back on with us tomorrow, Wednesday, and I'm going to be doing an interview with a friend of mine who I was at Coleman with, who got kicked out of RDAP, a guy named Bill. I'm going to be doing an interview with him live on Friday, so make sure you hang out for that. That's going to be a lot of fun as well. What's going on, Kyle? How are you doing, my man? Glad to see you. Glad to see you joining us. So RDAP. So you were charged. you're got some kind of a drug conspiracy, drug crime, and you were also charged with, in possession of some sort of firearm, or there was a firearm in the vicinity, or there was a firearm wherever the drugs and the money was being held. And you've negotiated, you've taken a plea deal, and part of your plea deal is that they're not going to charge you with the gun charge. The gun charge has been removed. So your guidelines are going down, right? You're not getting charged with the gun charge. What your attorney's telling you is this is good news. You're probably going to qualify for RDAP now. And maybe even the judge is telling you, we're going to recommend you for RDAP. You go through all of this. You think this is great. You don't have a gun charge. You didn't get hit with the gun. You get to prison, you go talk to your RDAP coordinator, or you talk to the prison psychologist trying to find out to qualify for RDAP. And all of a sudden you find out that you do not qualify. You qualify to take the class, but you do not qualify for the sentence reduction. And you ask them why. And they say, oh, because of the gun charge. You say, well, I wasn't charged with a gun charge. However, what they usually don't tell you, or it's not really explained in full detail, is even though they dropped the gun charge, they still use the enhancement of the gun charge on your pre-sentence report. You'll see a 2-level enhancement on your guidelines, which can enhance the sentencing guideline range, which can still give you, a longer sentence, and they'll use this to, bump up your points. The problem is you're not aware of this, and you're thinking you're going to qualify for RDAP the whole time. So just because they dropped the gun charge, but they're still going to hit you with a 2-level enhancement. This happens almost every single time. That's why we call it the kiss of death, because we're very unaware that that's still going to affect us. And the reason why we're unaware is because this is not the area or the realm where your attorneys typically are going to shine. This is most attorneys. It's not about them being lazy or, not knowing what they're doing. It's more of the average attorney is going to be finished with you after your sentencing. They might do a couple motions for an extension, a self-surrender, something like that. But once you go into prison, most of the time the attorney's done. You'll never hear from them again. There's no need to hear from them again unless, you're rehiring them to, maybe you're going to do some sort of a motion. You're fighting your case. Many times when you guys sign a plea deal, you're giving up your right to come back and fight anything. You're giving up all of your rights to come back and appeal. So usually you'll have nothing to do with the attorney. So most attorneys don't follow their clients into the prison system. They don't really know what's going on. They stop their tracking. And what happens is this is when you find out you don't qualify for RDAP. After you've been prepping yourself for this entire time, you're looking at your sentence, you and your family are going, okay, this won't be so bad. I've got, whether it's 24 months or 40 months or 60 months, whatever the sentence is, you're looking at that and you start doing all these calculations in your head. You're like, all right, minus my good time. And then if I also, take RDAP, that's going to knock another year off. I can get 6 months halfway house. And it really starts to chew up how much time you were initially looking at, and it can become extremely stressful when all of a sudden you're told, well, you've got a 2-level enhancement in your pre-sentence report. And then you start calling me going, but my attorney told me I'm going to qualify and my judge told me I'm going to qualify. If you guys do your homework, and everything I'm showing you guys today, there's links in the description of the video. Another very good resource, and we had this linked to our website. It's not there right now, and I got to find out why. But another really good resource for many of you, if you've heard of FAMM, F-A-M-M, Families Against Mandatory Minimums. And I'll share it right here. If you head over to their site, or actually just click on the link, I probably should make this bigger so you all can see it. There you go. Maybe that's a little bit better for you guys. And if you go in, you can do a search. If you just press Control, if you're on a regular PC, press Control F, and you can type in. If you're on a Mac, type Command F, and you can kind of search what it is you're trying to search for. But if you type in gun enhancement, what you'll see is it talks about it that a 2-point gun enhancement makes you ineligible for RDAP. So this kind of gives you your rules and regulations. It goes through multiple Q&A of RDAP, anything you can think of, who qualifies, who doesn't qualify, why somebody wouldn't qualify. Obviously if you have a robbery charge, Even if you didn't use a gun, if you went into a bank and you robbed a bank, even if there was no gun, it's considered an act of violence. You're not going to qualify for RDAP. If you had arson, you're not going to qualify for RDAP. If you made severe threats to somebody, there's a good chance you may not qualify for RDAP. There's some sex offenses that you're not going to qualify for RDAP. So if you're unsure, you can do two things. You can either go through this, you can look it up yourself, or you can click on the link in the description of this video. You can book yourself a free consultation with us. And this is what we did yesterday. And I can tell you, it was frustrating with the lady that I spoke with yesterday. The frustrating part on that was, even though I'm telling her these things, I'm telling her why her daughter is not going to qualify for RDAP, you could very much tell she was in a deep level of denial, not really wanting to believe me. Wanting to think that she's like, but the attorney told us this. The attorney, I was like, it's not up to the attorney. It's not up to the judge. The judge cannot send you to RDAP. The judge can only make a judicial recommendation that you should take RDAP. But if you don't get into RDAP and you come back and you tell the judge, hey, you said, put me in RDAP. And the judge will tell you, well, I can't put you in RDAP. The judge doesn't have the power to do so. Some of the other common questions about RDAP, how much time do I have to take the program? You have to have a minimum sentence of 24 months. And again, head over to my website, look at the Q&A there. I've broken down the most common Q&As and you'll see it. Can't miss it. RDAP FAQ. You can break down, you can answer a lot of your questions there, because there's nothing worse than thinking you know the answer to something and then you find out down the road that this is why you don't qualify. When we get these calls, and there's very little that could be done, in a situation like that. The information's in the PSR. She has the substance abuse. She didn't even have a gun. The thing is she was in the car with her boyfriend, who I guess was running drugs or something. And there's a gun under her seat. And even if you didn't have the gun on you, it's enough for them to know that you knew about the gun. And many of us, when we take our plea deal, we're not thinking that that's going to hurt us. And they're like, you knew your boyfriend had a gun, right? You knew he had a gun in a drug dwelling or in a drug related crime. You knew he was carrying a gun. And at this point, you're trying to take your plea deal. You're trying to do what's in your best interest. And you're like, yes, yes, yes. Well, that they can use against you now that that you knew about the gun, that you had knowledge of the gun. They can hit you with that 2-level enhancement, even if they don't charge you with the gun. I agree. It's bullshit. I don't think that they should be able to do that, because it's really done for the sentencing guideline ranges in order to enhance the amount of time that they can give you. But it's really, really affecting your ability to get the help that you might need. So it can be extremely debilitating when you find these things out after the fact. This is why what you do now with every moment of free time that you have on your research, your due diligence, do all of your own research that you can. But at some point, you're going to want to speak to somebody that has maybe some additional knowledge from what your attorneys aren't sharing with you. A consultant shouldn't be here giving you legal advice. A consultant should be advising you on the in-between information. There's this whole process from the time that you get arrested to the time that you get released from prison. All of that in between, there's a lot that your attorneys are not going to focus on. We do not see attorneys focusing strongly enough on reference letters, narratives, prepping for the PSR. That PSR interview is so drastically important that most people overlook it. They don't give it enough credit. They maybe use self-defeating thoughts like, this isn't really going to matter anyway. Why do I need to do all of this? Well, I'm here to tell you guys, if you're not putting in the hard work and the effort right now, and you're not feeding your brain with positivity, and you're not finding ways to minimize the stress and how you can kind of work through your stress, there's nothing that's going to get rid of your stress. You've heard me say this a million times. There's nothing that's going to make you lose all of your stress and your anxiety, but you can mitigate it. You can mitigate your stress. You can mitigate your anxiety. And it's by dealing with it and not putting things off, looking for the answers that you don't quite know, and not assuming that you've got it all figured out, because the people that think they got it all figured out, a lot of the times, these are the individuals that go through this process and they don't find out till it's too late, till they're sitting in prison and they find out that they don't qualify for RDAP or they don't qualify for sentence reduction. There's consultants out there that will promise, oh yeah, we can make sure you qualify for RDAP. Qualifying for RDAP and qualifying for sentence reduction are two different areas. Just because you can take RDAP does not mean you're going to automatically get sentence reduction. I've heard other people make these statements. I've heard attorneys, when they find out they're working with somebody like us and they say, well, Dan's helping me to improve my chances of qualifying for RDAP. Instead of them saying, all right, that's good, they'll say things like, oh, well, that's a waste of money. The only person that can qualify you for RDAP is the BOP. Yes, they have the final say, but if you haven't prepped properly and you miss a step by accident, maybe you tell the probation officer that you don't have a drug problem or you never drank alcohol, and maybe you really did, but you thought telling them this is going to make you look better or it's going to give you a more favorable sentence, or you think by being truthful about any substance abuse issues you had that somehow that this can hurt you, it's going to revoke your bond, or maybe you think, oh, I only smoked weed. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about, heroin or cocaine or, some other illicit drug. Or you're thinking, well, I'm a weekend warrior. I only drink beer and wine or a little bit of mixed drinks or a vodka, Tito's and soda on the weekends. These are all things that you want to make sure that you're forthcoming with during your probation interview, because these are things that can, in a lot of situations, make or break why an individual like that would qualify for the program. So just assuming that you're not going to qualify without really putting in the effort and the work is going to leave a door that's going to get closed before you even get to the prison system. And then when you're there and you're curious about the time off and you find out, well, there's not enough information in your PSR, or you said you don't have a drinking problem when really you did, or really maybe you smoked a lot of marijuana, or maybe you were taking prescription pills. Even if these prescription pills were prescribed to you from a doctor, just because you are prescribed and you're allowed to have them does not mean that you're not abusing and you have not become addicted. These are very important things that you need to know. If you walk into that pre-sentence interview blind and just kind of, shooting from the hip and not really knowing what you're there and there's no preparation, your attorney calls you up and says, hey, your PSR is tomorrow. And you're like, great, what do I need to know? Oh, nothing. Just we're going to go in there and answer their questions. Okay, that's the truth. We are going to go in there and answer their questions. But to be prepared, have an idea of the general type of questions that they're going to ask and the level of importance in knowing some of these details about your background, your history, the more truthful you are, the more detail you provide, presenting your personal narrative at this point, or giving it to your attorney and having your attorney email it to them and asking them to make it a part of the pre-sentence interview when they, go through a lot of your personal history. Adding things like this to your PSR, to the pre-sentence interview, can have huge impact on the type of sentence you may receive, especially considering U.S. probation conducting this interview is going to be giving a recommendation to the judge as to what they think the judge should do. We just had a client who the probation officer came back with a much better recommendation than what the government was asking for. And the government's a little ticked off. They don't, they don't want the judge to go by the probation officer's report. So now basically at sentencing, you've got what probation wrote, which was way better than what the government said about the individual. So there's going to be like a mini trial where the government's going to present their case as to why the judge should consider the guideline range that they want the individual to be under, and the defense is going to be arguing why the judge should consider sentencing them based on what U.S. probation's report says. So if you don't think that all of these things matter, I believe that's you telling yourself what you need to hear because you're not willing to really do anything about it. You have to get up. You have to pull your head out of the sand. You have to take accountability. We've had clients telling us, Dan, I'm different than all of your other clients. I'm not like your other clients. And you know who usually says that? It's usually the white collar individuals that keep thinking that they're in some league separated from everybody else. No. A white collar individual and a first time non-violent offender are very similar in a lot of situations. A lot of times mental health can be a real debilitating it can be very problematic going through this process, because you start having these highs and these lows, and it makes it really hard for you to deal with the reality of what it is you're embarking on. And you get stuck in your head and you don't want to take responsibility. You're like, this isn't fair. I shouldn't be going to prison. I'm not a bad person. And of course, your family and your friends and your father and your mother and your sister and your boyfriend, and your girlfriend, they're all telling you the same thing. Oh my God, I can't believe you're going through this. They should be leaving you alone right now. This should be criminal. They shouldn't be able to do this. And yes, it might be a little overkill with what the government's doing to you, but there's nothing special about the situation. It's very common to see the government overreaching and really, turning your life upside down and creating this picture that you're the most horrible person that ever walked the face of the earth. But once you realize that that's what they do to everybody, you're going to stop expecting all of a sudden someone's going to see you're a good person and come in and wave a magic wand and make it all go away, and then butterflies, and you're going to have this beautiful walk away from court and scot-free, and you get some kind of an apology. It's not going to work that way. If you don't find a way to accept responsibility, look at what it is that you could have done different. What role did you play in getting yourself tangled in this federal web? And when you can focus on that, when you can see what part you did play, man, it will change everything. It will give you this epiphany that I'm just going to own this. Granted, maybe it's not as bad as they're saying. Maybe I didn't do everything that they said that I did, but I put myself in their scopes. I put myself within their reach. If I had made better choices and surrounded myself around different people, or had a different mentality, different thinking attitude, challenged my thoughts, stopped being greedy, wanted to work harder for whatever it was, paid more attention to consequences, all of these red flags that exist that we ignore. If you put some time and effort into that, guys, I promise you, you will have a better outcome. After the fact, during the fact, even after you get to prison, you got to change your attitude. You got to change your mindset. That's why I'm real excited for you guys to meet Bill on Friday. William, amazing dude. One of the first mentors that I ever really saw as a mentor. I identified him as a mentor when I kept saying to myself, what would Bill do right now? What would Bill say during this really rough, frustrating time that I'm going through, sitting here in prison, missing my family? Hearing Bill on how he was able to stay so positive and still motivated after he got kicked out of RDAP, and still never said one bad thing about RDAP. So he's going to be a very, very fun individual, very well spoken, very charismatic, great presence. You guys are going to like him. Hopefully his camera's nice so you can see, what he's got going on, but the guy is just energy that we all need to see. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. Do me a favor, make sure if you haven't subscribed, hit that thumbs up. I know this was a quick video. I know you guys really like it when I do this stuff on, like I said, Tom's going to be on tomorrow. We're going to talk some more about compassionate release. Some more case law just came out with some really, really positive information. Some other cases that have happened for many of you that this is case law that we'll be able to use in arguments when creating your own motions. Guys, if you're out there and you're interested in compassionate release, and I had somebody ask me yesterday, what's the difference in you guys doing it and, a regular average attorney? The problem is the area of compassionate release right now is different than where it's really ever been before. Compassionate release, usually what you would see before is, you've got somebody in prison that's got, let's say, cancer or something else. They're on their way out, and a lot of times, and they would get compassionate release because, the compassion of the BOP is like, you don't need to die in prison if it's some nonviolent crime, right? Well, COVID-19 is something that wasn't in existence before. They've never used it before. And you've got somebody with health risks, diabetes, asthma, they're overweight. These are individuals that if they were to contract COVID and not only spread it to other individuals in the prison, they are at higher risk of not being able to beat this germ and possibly not make it through it, not come out the other side. So this is why compassionate release has been used for this. But the problem is whoever is going to be conveying your argument, whoever is going to be assisting you in what should go into this. They need to have a ton of knowledge beyond just what your medical records are. They need to go into your history. They need to go into your personal life, collecting documents, collecting medical records, organizing this, articulating it the right way, not creating some just, template that they've used a million other times. It needs to have the information that's going to identify it uniquely to your situation. And if whoever you're using, if they're not doing that, you're putting yourself in a very dangerous situation for just getting denied frivolously. And we know the government is going to object in almost every situation. You're going to see the government object. When that government objects with their list of boilerplated objections, you're going to need somebody that can go in and respond to those objections. Again, they're going to have to be able to respond to them timely. You usually don't get a lot of time to respond. They need to be able to respond to them timely. It needs to make sense, because ultimately, if you're relying that the judge knows all of the laws, even though he does probably to an extent, but there's so many different laws and the way that they work, the judge is going to be relying on the information and the evidence provided to him to where he's going to make his decision. So if the government has made a better argument, or it sounds better, even if it's not entirely true, you're probably going to see yourself at the losing side of that bargaining chip, versus having somebody that has the ability to combat what the government says, showing stats and why. I mean, when you guys see Tom Root come on here, this guy eats, sleeps, breathe, stats, case law. The guy can quote almost any case law, rambles it off the top of his head like it's something he's known his entire life. So take advantage of the assets and the tools that we bring to the table. We're putting a lot of effort into bringing you guys not just value in our content, but the services that we offer. They're only valuable services if it being provided to you at the time, the value that's behind it, who's putting in the work, what's being done, what makes us different from everybody else, or are you just getting some bullshit draft that you wouldn't know if it was good or bad because it's an area you've never dived into before. I don't want to be labeled in that group. I know there's other individuals that do that. Not all of them. There are some really good individuals out there. My biggest competitor in the industry, I hate to say it, but he's really good at what he does. So I can't say anything bad about him, but there are other people in the industry that will just throw something together and you'll get a quick denial, but you really have, where are you going to go from it? It's what you agreed to. You signed off on it. Do your due diligence, know who you're dealing with. Not everybody's going to be a perfect fit for everybody, but if you do your homework and you feel comfortable with the person, you've done your research, what they're telling you makes sense, and you can back it up with some facts and some stats, then that's who you should be considering. It's going to come down to level of value and can you afford it? If you can put those two things together and you can package it up, work yourself out a deal, negotiate yourself the best deal, then you're going to be sitting pretty, or prettier than what you would have been. All right, that's enough rambling for me. I'm going to go finish enjoying my coffee. It's beautiful here in South Florida. We're like in the 60s today. I get to wear a sweater weather. That's all I got, guys. I'm RDAP Dan, Federal Prison Time Consulting, people helping people, communities method, one day at a time. Appreciate you guys for joining in. Well, Kyle and Sean, this is a very short notice video, but Sean, appreciate you, brother. You guys be safe. I'll be back tomorrow and we'll be back Friday. Until then,